Hello, and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by three guys who have never been on the turf. My name is Arjun.
I'm Shribam Konda.
And I'm Rohan Patel.
And this is a big episode for us. We had to make sure we had all three of us here. So this week will be 2 years of On the Turf, and we've hit episode 50. So 50 episodes later, we're here. Rohan came in on what? Episode 2, but he only was a main guy, I think, for episode 4.
Yeah.
So you're still getting to your episode 50, but for Shri and I, starting 2 years ago in October, I think first game we talked about was like Broncos Browns with Teddy Bridgewater and an injured Baker Mayfield, and Ernest Johnson had this great game
behind a great offensive line.
Shri, I listened to the episode for Rohan was saying I never believed in Tua Tagovailoa, so I went back to that first episode and showed them the receipts because I've been believing.
No, he's not. Okay, let's let that work. You've never been a believer. You just haven't. You just an avid hater. I think there's a difference.
I was talking about how they shouldn't trade for Deshaun.
Oh, right. I mean, I think Rohan's been on the Tua train more than anyone. We're not going to steal your credit there.
I'm just saying, I've not hated Tua. I've not been a Tua hater. I've been a Tua ambivalator at worst.
Yeah.
And I think it's not good enough personally. But irregardless, it's good to be here for 50. Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of time on this.
We've spent a lot of time on this. This is a major time commitment for me, especially editing these during the week. Sorry.
Okay, that felt really personal.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of editing.
I don't care.
We need an editor. Please, if you'd like to edit free of charge, let us know.
We do not make money off of this. But yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so we're gonna get into a lot of stuff going into week 7, the NFL season. We're already a little more than a third through the season. But before, I'd like to talk about we don't talk about the Cardinals much on this show. We brought them up in passing over the past couple of weeks. They're probably never going to get a game spotlight or even a segment spotlight on them this entire year. But let's talk about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is returning to practice as of today, apparently. He's coming off the physically unable to perform list or the PUP list. He has 21 days to be activated to the squad. Sounds like he's not going to play week 7, obviously, but week 8, home. I think it's against the Ravens, if I'm correct.
I prefer he didn't play against the Ravens, honestly.
But Kyler Murray's coming back, it seems. And Rohan, what are your expectations? What do you hope to see from Kyler?
I mean, listen, I don't expect much from Kyler. I mean, he's walking into an offense that obviously doesn't have a lot going for it. We don't have a lot of skill in this offense. I mean, I just expect him to come out and perform to a level that, this offense has overperformed, I think, in a lot of scenarios. Outside of last week, they've been doing pretty well. Josh Dobbs has looked okay. We have some nice little weapons in Michael Wilson, obviously Marquise Brown. So coming back, I expect him to at least be able to show some ability to move the ball down the field better than Josh Dobbs. I think show some ability to work off a play action, be able to hit his receivers downfield. Obviously, I think the biggest thing is his mobility. I'm hoping that he can still use his legs. Gannon's been doing a really good job, or not Gannon rather, but our offensive coordinator has been doing a really good job of getting Josh Dobbs in space, and I really look forward to seeing how that translates to Kyler Murray. Now listen, I'm on the Kyler train, okay? I don't need Caleb Williams. I don't want a quarterback who's going to come in asking for an ownership stake.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Although I guess I would rather Caleb Williams own my team than Michael Bidwell.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I'm on the Kyler train. We're fine at quarterback. We have an all-pro quarterback. We just need to fill out the weapons around him, and we're going to be a good team next year. Maybe get Marvin Harrison, something along those lines. But Kyler is the franchise. We will not be trading Kyler. I hope we don't trade Kyler. And I can't wait to see him back in the field.
That was the most idealistic way I've heard you describe
Rohan's
a season. Yeah.
We knew the season was lost from the beginning, okay? The fact that we won a game is enough.
Especially against the Cowboys.
Yeah, against Cowboys. So quite frankly, I'm not upset at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think, whatever. We're going to talk about the Cardinals probably a lot once we get into February to April-ish, so we can save all of that for
the
that.
The draft talk will be when we talk about the Cardinals more.
Yeah. But let's get into our first major segment of the day. We did this last year around this time. It's a fun segment for us. Contenders versus Pretenders. So contenders meaning playoff contenders. Super Bowl we'll talk about once we actually get to the playoffs. But I'm going to give you guys some teams, all of which, or if not all of them, have 3 wins or 3 losses or somewhere in that mix. And whether you guys think that they're a contender for the playoffs or they're just a pretender at this point in the season. Kicking it off with the New York Jets, who I was ecstatic to see them win against the Eagles. Look, I think this has been said across like the sports talk world for the past 3 days or so, but like the fact that the Jets are 3-3 going into their bye is what they would have hoped for with Aaron Rodgers and the schedule going into the season. But they have Zach Wilson. They're 3-3. They beat the Bills. They beat the Eagles. And they beat the Broncos. And they had the Chiefs dead to rights. If it weren't for a missed penalty, they probably win that game as well. Mm-hmm. So, are the Jets playoff contenders or are they pretenders? And we're going to see Zach Wilson miss the playoffs yet again.
I'll go first because I just want to say that I called this at the beginning of the season. I said that the Jets defense would help this team rally to the playoffs. So I'll go first and say that, yeah, I do think they're playoff contenders. I'm just looking at the schedule. I think it honestly looks pretty optimistic. They play the Giants, then the Chargers, and then the Raiders. I think this is a Jets team that has not only an amazing roster, but also an amazing staff on the sidelines. I think the coaching is amazing, and that is honestly what I think is going to stand out against all these teams. After that, they have divisional games, and I know it's the Bills and Dolphins, but these are divisional games, and this is a defense that has been playing lights out. I think we saw it against the Chiefs. We've seen it against the Eagles. If they're able to stop an Eagles offense to 14 points, I think it speaks volumes about this defense. So I think for sure that they are a contender, and maybe not the division because I think Miami is going to grab it, but definitely in spot for a wild card.
This is a packed AFC. This is a packed AFC with a lot of really good teams. And while Zach Wilson has shown some strides of improvement, I'm going to err on the side of saying that they're pretenders, unfortunately. It was a really good win against the Eagles, but I'm not going to let myself get caught up in that. Now, this is a really good Jets defense. I do agree with that. But, I'm looking at their defensive stats right now. In terms of defense, they one of their biggest calling cards is turnovers.
Yeah.
They're forcing turnovers on nearly 20% of opponents' drives, and that's something that, while those big plays are great, I don't know how sustainable it is. Last week against the Eagles, they got, outgained on offense by almost over 100 yards. So when you're talking about that, yeah, their defense is great, but is it good enough to match the shortcomings of their offense? This is still a team that is dead last in the league in passing yards per game. Again, Zach Wilson's looked good, but think about who he's played. He played the Broncos defense, which is, I think, the worst in NFL history up to this point in time.
Sure, but he moved down the Chiefs and the Eagles.
He moved on.
And the Chiefs have a pretty good defense this year.
And the Chiefs do have a good defense. He showed some poise. I'm not gonna come out and say that he was better, that he didn't look bad. But look at this. He had 186 yards against the Eagles, passing. Okay, it wasn't a fantastic game by any means. And let's be real, the reason they won this game is because of that last-second pick. So, yes, they might be able to win a few games here and there. But when it comes time to play your Bills, when it comes time to play your Dolphins, they're going to lose those games, and I think that's not enough when it comes to them making the playoffs.
I think for me... Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was going to say something. My bad.
No, I was just going to say really quickly, one thing I know I've read about the Jets and I know stats-wise is, to Rohan's point about turnovers, they're 3-0 when they force 3 turnovers or more. They're 0-3 when they force 3 or less than 3.
Yeah.
So that's not a sustainable way to win. Turnovers are one of the most fluky stats you'll find, right? And there are certain defenses that tend to force turnovers, right? We saw it last year, I think, with the Niners. We've seen it with Pittsburgh Steelers defenses over the past couple of years as well. The Eagles last year as well. But I'm going to say this Jets team, unfortunately, I think they're pretenders. I think the Bills are going to be coming back with a vengeance next time they see this team. I think the Dolphins are going to be able to move the ball on them. The problem is that I'm willing to, I think this could really go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if this team sneaks in the playoffs. But based on what we've seen so far from Zach Wilson, I'm not confident that when they ask him to win the game for him or win the game for us, if he can do that yet.
When I evaluate a team, when I think of a team that's going to turn it around, I don't think the defense is going to do a 180. I think if anything, the offense is going to do a 180. And if the defense is already there, I feel like, except for the New England Patriots, I feel like any other team with a competent offense can honestly turn it around. And I think turning around an offense, and I don't even know if this is a hot take or not, but is much easier, I feel like, in today's NFL than turning around a defense to be an elite team. So if you already have a team that's playing a top 3 defense, then you just need Zach Wilson to, just honestly play like a Brock Purdy type of game, which he isn't. But Actually, a Brock Purdy type of game is like
Hey,
very,
don't just
very
Brock
insane
Purdy
right
like
now.
that.
But like, Brock Purdy from like previous years to like Zach
Previous
Wilson today.
year? Not even a year.
Previous year, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Moving to the NFC. This is a team that we didn't have much expectations of going into the season, but has defied our expectations so far. Cooper Kupp is back. The Los Angeles Rams sitting at 3-3. They face my Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. I'm very nervous for that game, and we'll talk about the Steelers a little bit later on. But what do you guys think? Contenders or pretenders for the Rams? I'll go really quickly. Contender for me. I think this team is an easy NFC wildcard contender. I really like the way McVay has turned the squad around. I just think offensively they're going to be able to keep up with most teams. Defensively, I think it's going to take some adjustments with how young their roster is. But you got Aaron Donald, you got Matt Stafford, you got Cooper Kupp. They'll find a way to get it done. And I'm going to trust the coach and quarterback here. They'll make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think my logic is like pretty similar, and it's just added with the fact that the NFC is just not as competitive as the AFC. So that's honestly why I think they're a contender. Not only because they're a good team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I will say I said this before the year started. I said that
you did.
You guys were both really down on the Rams. I had them above the Seahawks in my
We'll see about that.
schedule. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll end up above the Seahawks. I think that's close, but I think they do have that ability. This is a top 5, top 10 passing offense. I mean, Matt Stafford's playing really great, and again, he played 4 games without Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And with Puka Nacua. Now Kupp's back. His number one receiver is back. Offense looks good. Stafford's moving the ball down the field well. The run game is coming in nicely with Kyron Williams. Obviously, he'll be out a few games, but I think when he comes back, they'll be fine. Defensively, good enough, I think. They're a team that will beat the bad teams and play good teams and elite teams competitively.
Yeah.
And I think usually that can be enough to sneak you into the playoffs, especially in this weaker NFC.
Yeah. Now moving back to the AFC, a team a lot like the Jets for me. I hate this team with a passion, but the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, where is he? Where's Deshaun Watson? He got his bag and he ran off, just like the terrible person he is. But the Browns got a win last week against the undefeated, Super Bowl favorite San Francisco 49ers.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have? I thought that game was going to be a blowout, especially when I found out P.J. Walker was starting. But P.J. Walker didn't play well. This defense is on a historic pace right now. Like, we're talking about how good the Jets defense is. This Browns defense isn't even top in like turnovers or anything. They're just making sure you don't get yardage on the field. And this Browns defense right now is on pace to be one of the best defenses in nearly half a century. And if you think about the offenses that played back then, that's even more impressive. But we'll see if Watson comes back. Sounds like he's doubtful for this week or questionable for this week against the Colts. PJ, is this a sustainable way to play football for the Browns? They're 3-2. What do you guys think, contenders or pretenders? I'll say the same thing with the Jets here, pretenders. I think the Browns are actually in a more dire situation for me than the Jets. I think the schedule is much harder for the Browns than the Jets. I think the quarterback situation, there's some bad juju around this quarterback situation here. You have P.J. Walker. He's not obviously good enough. Zach Wilson's much better than him. And Deshaun Watson, we don't even know when he's going to come back, and if he does come back, how good he's going to be because it's a shoulder injury. So pretenders for me, great defense. It's going to get them to about 8 wins, but it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I'm leading on the side of pretenders as well. I just want to shout out like Myles Garrett. He had a historic game against Trent Williams. I think it's the most win attempts that Trent Williams has ever given up in his life, and that was to Myles Garrett. So shout out Myles Garrett. But yeah, I honestly think the same thing, and it's honestly just because of the schedule. Like, we've seen Deshaun Watson, take a long break, whether it was from suspension or from injury before, and we've seen how he's performed at least over the next 2 games. So I think that same trend is going to continue, and I wouldn't be surprised if this team ends up again at the bottom of the AFC division. And it's just a hard schedule. I feel like every single team they're playing is just like vying for a playoff spot. So I'm going to go with the pretender as well.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think they could be legit. I mean, when we're talking about this defense, I don't think this is the best defense in the league easily, by far.
Yeah.
And when I mean by far, I mean they've given up just over 1,000 yards over 5 games. They're giving up around 200 yards per game. Okay, 200 yards per game in the NFL is wild, and they're not doing it against scrubs. I mean, they've played some decent teams. They played the Bengals. They played a Titans team that has shown at least the ability to run the ball. They played the Ravens. They played the Niners last week, right? I mean, they've played really good teams. They've held them. I mean, give me any defensive statistic if they're in the top 5 or top 10 in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a historic defense. Offensively, yes. They've had some issues. They've had struggles. But I mean, when you look at their losses to the Ravens and the Steelers, I mean, the Steelers, there was 2 defensive touchdowns that won the Steelers the game. And against the Ravens, you're playing with DTR in his first NFL start, and he throws 3 picks. So it's like you're not really set up for success there. When this team is playing mistake-free on offense, which they can do because they're a top 5 rushing offense as well, even without Nick Chubb, they can win games. And when you look at their schedule, I mean, I think there are winnable games on here. Coming up, you got the Colts, and that's very winnable. You got the Seahawks, winnable. Cardinals, winnable. And then the Ravens and Steelers, both division games that can swing either way. So I think the Browns are in a good spot. If Deshaun Watson comes back, I mean, he makes the team better. Like, I'm just objectively, he does make the team slightly better, as much as I hate to admit it. This team could make a run.
I think for me, it's just that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tree. Go ahead, Tree. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you
go.
Can
go.
I? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like the 1,000 yards like stat is great, but for me, I just think that like that stat is just inflated by like just like like a Bengals week 1 where Joe Burrow did not look like himself, and then a Titans team where like Ryan Tannehill threw for like 104 yards. Like, I feel like when you look at the Steelers,
about that, right? I mean,
no, I mean, I know. I mean, I'm
Steelers.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett, like Lamar, and like their game against the 49ers, I honestly think is like inflating the stat like a little bit too much. Like, this is a team that gave up like the Steelers had a great like, even though they had a defensive like amazing performance against the Browns, like the Steelers had a pretty great offensive game relative to their standards against this like so-called like number 1 defense in the league, right? And like sure, like giving up 1,000 yards is like on a historic pace, but they also played like the Titans and the Bengals, who had like honestly like bottom performances in the league for that week probably. So I feel like the hype is going a little out of
performances in the league that week. I think part of it is because of that. I mean, I'm looking at the
no,
Steelers right now.
I'm sure, but I think no matter how great a defense is, like if an offense just doesn't show up, it doesn't mean that I mean, I'm sure you can give credit to the defense, but it can also just mean that the offense is just a shitty offense,
I mean, I would just say, if Lamar was able, I mean, I get it. They were playing DTR that game, and that probably tired out the defense a little bit, but Lamar was able to absolutely dice up this defense.
Yeah.
When he played them. And Lamar's playing really good this year, I'll give you that. But like, how many good truly elite quarterbacks has this team faced? Maybe 1 so far.
Sure, but I mean, I look at their schedule, and I don't see many more elite quarterbacks you're playing. You play Lamar once again, you play T-Law once. You play Joe Burrow at the end of the year.
Stafford.
You play Stafford, yeah.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a lot of games that could go
Stroud.
either way. There's a lot of games that could go either way, but with the Browns, this defense, I'm erring on the side of belief that this is a historic defense, and they are going to perform at this level for most of the year. And that gives me a lot of confidence in them.
Like,
all right,
again, I'm. Oh yeah.
Sorry, you're good to move.
Yeah,
to the next
we'll keep
one?
going.
Okay, so next one is the New Orleans Saints, sitting at 3-3. For me, about where I expected this team to be. Derek Carr is very, very mid, just very aggressively mid. This defense, they're good. We know they were good. They're still good. Alvin Kamara having a little bit of resurgence. Chris Olave, please get that man someone who can throw him the ball. Michael Thomas, not quite what he used to be, but still pretty good. This team's pretty good.
They're good.
They're pretty, they're good.
But they're good.
They're pretenders though. They're not going to beat anyone that good. They'll beat some bad teams. They'll beat up on some really bad offenses. But this team's pretenders. Sorry, Rocky.
Okay. Okay, so I agree that this is a very mid team. I'm just thinking about the conference just being less competitive, and I'm just thinking about the wild card spots. Like, I could honestly see this team going on a 4-game just tear against like the Jags, the Colts, the Bears, and the Vikings. And then sure, they have a couple games here and there, but if you honestly look at their schedule, it does not look bad at all. Like, this is a team, like a mid team that has beaten up on I can't really say the Patriots are great, but like they've had very close games, but like I want to say that they can make the playoffs just because of the schedule. Like, even though it's a mid team, I still think this offense can keep them competitive. The defense can keep them competitive, and the offense can do I guess the offense can be very clutch at times against their game against the Titans, but I think they can sneak into the playoffs not because they're a very good team, but because they have a pretty weaker schedule relative to other teams.
I don't know. I'm gonna say pretender, and my issue with the Saints is that they don't do anything on offense particularly well. They have a very good defense.
They
Sorry,
make an
what was it?
amazing call to Rashid Shaheen at the end. At the end, like a fucking, what do you call it? A
Hail
go
Mary.
route? Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought their play calling at the end was baffling. They threw 4 go balls to the end zone. On 4th
Yeah.
and 10.
No, and that's my issue is that like with the Saints, it's like yes, their defense is good. I agree with that. But the defense isn't putting points up on the board, at least not usually, unless you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that means
We're
your offense
different.
has to do something. And too often the offense doesn't have a sure way to move the ball down the field. Look at their divisional rivals,
Yeah.
the Saints and the Falcons, the Buccaneers. I see the Bucks can move the ball through the air. The Falcons are a terrific ground game. I'm like, what do the Saints do? Saints are very mid passing wise. They're below average rushing wise. Team losses to teams like the Bucks, the Texans, losing last minute to the Packers. Games like that are games that you shouldn't be losing if you're a contender. And yeah, that might be able to. This division will be close, but I'm erring on the side of saying they're a pretender just because I don't like their offense whatsoever.
Good. Okay. Next one. The Houston Texans, against all odds, are 3-3. I said before the season, keep an
Yeah.
eye on those Texans, and look at it. They're 3-3, and they're a fun team to watch. And we can't talk about the Texans without first talking about C.J. Stroud having an absolutely amazing rookie season so far. He reminds me a lot of Herbert in his rookie season. Like, it seems like he's a vet and he's been playing for years, but he's in there. And I watched him completely destroy my team. And I don't feel as bad about that anymore because I think they're legitimately just a well-coached team with a good quarterback. So that's why I think the Texans are a contender. Sure, they don't have the weapons that a lot of the teams in the AFC have, but I think coaching quarterback is what gets you into the playoffs these days. And I think DeMeco Ryans is showing himself early on to be a good coach. C.J. Stroud is showing out to be a good quarterback. They have enough on offense. Their defense plays really well. They got Derek Stingley. They got Blake Cashman. They got a lot of great guys who are playing great as a unit right now. Will Anderson, and I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Ooh. I'll go next.
Playoffs.
We're talking about playoffs.
This is tough. This is tough for me. I appreciate an amazing a team with a lot of potential, but I think for me this team has to win the division to make the playoffs. There's no sneaking into the playoffs. It has to be them win the division just because of how competitive the AFC is. So if they're gonna make it, they're gonna have to win the division. And when I think about that, I know they're playing great football and they beat the Jags and but they lost to the Colts. But the Colts also lost Anthony Richardson. I think to me, I'm gonna say pretender, not because I don't think this is a good team, but just because I don't want to say I don't know how sustainable it is, but how sustainable is CJ Stroud going to be? He's been sustainable so far, and the weapons have worked out great. And honestly, DeMeco Ryan, probably coach of the year, at least so far, but it's just a little uncertainty for me to... Honestly, I feel like this is such a bitch move, but I just don't know if they're a contender or pretender at this time. So I'm just going to say pretender, because they have to win the division, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to say pretender. This is a team that's been very reliant on C.J. Stroud. Their rushing offenses are one of the worst in the league. I think they're averaging just under 90 yards a game, which isn't ideal for a rookie quarterback. Obviously, I think C.J. Stroud is great. I think he will be great. I think the Texans won the draft. I mean, not won the draft, but the moving up, I think, to pick Stroud and Anderson back-to-back has proved to be a good move. Anderson is leading rookies in pressure rate, which is really impressive. He is a force that people thought he was going to be coming out of Alabama. They have 2 cornerstones now that I think are great for the team looking forward. That being said, again, offense is one-dimensional. Again, it's looking at losses to the Falcons, looking at losses to the Colts in week 2 that make me think, can this team compete with other high-level talent? And I think the answer is no. So because of that, I'm going to say they're pretenders. They'll put up a good record. I think they'll be around 500, but it's not enough in the AFC, and it's not enough to win the division.
All right, next one, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who we've talked about a lot in terms of these kinds of segments. Are they back? Are they not back? Is this a bad season for the Bengals? We don't really know. But, Joe Burrow, coming off of 2 wins, wasn't amazing against Seattle, was good early, didn't do much late, was really good against the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say contender. I think Joe Burrow is back enough, and I think this team will just get better. I think the defense is actually playing really, really well, especially that pass rush. Really got after Geno Smith. They gave up yards, but they really played bend but don't break. I think this is a lot like the Bengals seasons before. I'm not saying they're going to get to the AFC Championship this year, but I think they're on the track. They have a lot of divisional games coming up against the Ravens, the Steelers. So we'll see how they fare in those. But I think the Bengals are back enough where they can make it into the playoffs with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think I called this at the beginning of the season as well. Like, I feel like they always had that hump at the beginning, but I think that was just a Joe Burrow injury concern. And that defense, like, I have Geno Smith in fantasy football, and I just needed him to score a touchdown at the end. But so I watched the game, just that pass rush is disrupted at the end. So I've seen this Bengals pass rush literally, like, we're not going to talk about that. But it's just the fact that this team's bringing it back together, and we already know what the offense can do. And even though T. Higgins is injured, once he comes back, the offense will just get rolling even more. So I'm going to say contender as well.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think it's pretty obvious they're contenders. Regrettably, they are back, I think. Joe Burrow just gets healthier every week. He looks better. As you said, pass rush is looking really good. I worry about their defense a little bit. Like I said, they're giving up a lot of yards. But at the end of the day, I think this is the team that we've always seen from them. I think they'll be fine, and they'll contend for their division.
Next, moving to our only 2-win team we're going to talk about in this segment, the Los Angeles Chargers. We've talked about this team a lot. We talked about them a lot with Dylan last week, our Chargers fan. They lost to the Cowboys. Herbert wasn't amazing late. Is it Herbert's fault? Is it Staley's fault? But this team is a perpetual underperformer, and that's why I think they're a pretender. I love Herbert.
Really?
He's probably my favorite current quarterback playing in the league. But I don't know. They're just badly coached. Too many penalties, too many stupid mistakes on offense and defense. They'll maybe get to 9 wins, but I don't have any confidence in this team currently making the playoffs. I think they're going to lose this week to Kansas City. It's 2-4. That's hard to come back from. Pretenders for the Chargers.
Yeah, I also agree. Not to dig on the Vikings or anything, but if you can be competitively bad with the Vikings in a game, I think that says pretty much everything that needs to be said about if you are a contending team or not. So, I just feel like they're not clutch, even though I want to say Herbert is clutch just because the play calling is sometimes atrocious, and they have a hard schedule. So I'm going to go with pretender. I just don't see them in a very competitive AFC. So I'm going to say pretender.
I don't know. We have this conversation every year. I think in the past, at least last year, and what should have been the year before, the Chargers make the playoffs. I think they're contenders. I think they can make the playoffs. I'm looking at their schedule. The Chiefs, I think they'll lose to, but then you can go on a bit of a run. You get the Bears, you get the Jets.
Jets defense is really good.
Honestly,
they got the Lions.
Lions are tough, but then the Packers, I think that's a winnable game. Ravens is tough, but then you get Patriots, Broncos, Raiders. I think 3 more wins rack up there. I don't know. This is a tough one for me. I think Herbert has enough in him to will this offense to wins. That being said, this should be a team that's contending for a championship, whereas I think Brandon Staley brings them down far down.
Sneak into the playoffs.
Far down because of how poorly he coaches this team and how bad his defense is. And I wouldn't mean bad. I mean they're bottom 10 in just about every defense assist you can think of. So I'll still say contenders because they just find. Okay, I won't say they. Justin Herbert finds a way to win football games, and I think he can continue doing that and hopefully win 9-10 games, which could be enough. But it's still going to be disappointing in regards to the amount of talent that this Chargers team has.
Finally,
no one wants to talk about them. No one
Pittsburgh
wants to talk about these guys. No, shut up.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-3. Got my Steelers sweatshirt on today. Happy to be here talking about them. Rohan wouldn't allow us to talk about their game, so I'm going to kind of sneak that into the segment right here. I think we're going to beat the Rams. It's going to be a defensive showdown. I think the defensive line wins the game against the offensive line.
Matt Stafford, 3 picks.
3
picks.
Exactly. 3 were on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Steelers are contenders for the playoffs. Will they get bounced likely in the first round? Most definitely. Will they make it in? Probably. This team finds a way to win. We had no business winning the Browns game. We had no business winning the Ravens game. Hell, we almost lost the Raiders game out of, sheer will and determination to lose. But we find a way. The Steelers are going to make the playoffs. TJ Watt is easily the defensive player of the year right now. TJ Watt, hell, if we make the playoffs, he should be an MVP contender with how well he's playing and how he just creates plays for this defense to win games. Kenny Pickett kind of sucks, honestly. Kind of sucks.
Thank you. I'm glad you at least reached that conclusion.
I'm not going to lie.
I'm glad we've gotten
He's
there.
pretty bad. Matt Canada, even worse, somehow. But George Pickens, he's great. Deontay Johnson, coming back. Jaylen Warren, new stud in Pittsburgh. We got one. Pat Frymuth's coming back. There's a lot to like about this offense and everything except the two most important people on the offense being the play caller and the quarterback. But everything else, there's a lot to love. Steelers are contenders. We're making the playoffs.
Rohan, I'll let you go first.
No. You go first. I'm not letting you have the last word here, unfortunately.
Sorry, I just need some time because I don't have anything to say on the spot. That's why.
Okay, fine. I'll go.
I'm gonna cook up some bullshit because I feel like Arjun.
God, you've got some numbers.
I've got some numbers for you guys.
Oh my God,
Okay.
you've got
All right.
numbers, guys.
I got my numbers, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, nerd.
So-
What
so
numbers do you have?
My glasses on.
Oh wow. Okay.
Let's look at
So
them.
I want to respond to the numbers.
Yeah, whatever bullshit numbers.
These okay, they're numbers. They're not
Okay,
bullshit.
what the hell are the
Okay,
numbers?
sorry.
Tell us what the numbers
okay.
are, please.
So, let's start with the defense, okay? I agree. TJ Watt is great. He's wreaking havoc. The Steelers force a lot of turnovers. Like we said earlier, turnovers are volatile.
Except for
right?
the Steelers, because the Steelers have led the league in turnovers for the past 3 years.
Sure. But what do you guys do well on defense outside of that? You're 25th in the league in rush yards in rush yards or pass yards allowed per game, allowing what's the number here? Where are you guys? 245. And that's
We never said our secondary was good.
Jimmy Garoppolo, a rookie CJ Stroud. Who else do you guys
Suddenly
play?
CJ Stroud sucks, but
He's-
based on the argument we're making.
He doesn't suck. He's good, but he's still a rookie.
Okay.
And you allowed him to tear you up against, again, what's supposed to be a historically good defense.
Texans are a contender. I said it already.
Rushing defense. Maybe you guys do well there.
No, we don't.
You're still bad there. In fact, you're worse. You're 29th in the league. You're getting up 143 yards per game through rushing. So defense, again, you don't do anything well except force turnovers, which
Yeah.
you manage to do
Without fail.
without fail. But at some point, turnovers are volatile, and that will fail.
What? Are
Offensively.
they? Are they?
Offensively.
Good question.
Offensively. Passing offense.
We
You're-
don't need to go into the offense.
Passing
I
offense.
know. I've seen the
Passing
offense.
offense.
My
You are-
own damn eyes.
No. It's not just bad. It's 27th in passing offense. You're
I don't need a number to tell me
100
that. I've seen it.
It's 187 yards per game. You're only above the Cincinnati Bengals, who have had a statue at quarterback. And then the other teams you're above, the Titans, and the aging Ryan Tannehill, Cleveland Browns, which consists of Dorian Thompson Robinson and P.J. Walker, and then the
Watson.
Giants and the Jets. Rushing offense.
I would ask you this: what is our record compared to those teams? It's
Rushing
better.
offense. Rushing offense.
Okay,
31st in the league.
I understand
31st in
that.
the league
I
in
know.
rush yards per game.
I know.
You are gaining 80 yards on the ground per game.
I know.
With your first
Honestly,
round running back Najee
Shri,
Harris.
can you
okay?
please respond
No,
to this?
no,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
listen, here's the thing. You guys do nothing well except force turnovers.
And
That is
coaching.
not enough.
And coaching.
That is not enough. No, you're not coaching well, dude. Talking about coaching, you are literally bottom 10
How many
in
wins do we have?
every
How many
category.
wins? How many wins do we have?
You have 3 wins because you've gotten good with turnovers. I'm not going to deny that. Okay.
Yeah,
The Bengals
Rohan.
game you won with turnovers. The Ravens game you won because you got a pick in the end zone, and Lamar's or not Lamar, Odell Beckham was being stupid. Okay. So
It was actually a bad throw from Lamar.
it was actually a bad play call if you want to really get into it. But point of the matter is, you guys have won games because of turnovers. Turnovers are not consistent. Therefore, this is not a contending team.
Wait
All
for
right.
this weekend. Shri, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pick the last sentence that Rohan said. Turnovers are not indicative of winning a game. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, turnovers are the indicator of winning a game
They're
or not.
consistent. They're not
And-
consistent. It's not a
No,
consistent
yeah,
thing you guys can always count
Who's
on.
led the league in turnovers over the past 3 years?
I don't know, nor
It's
do
the
I
Steelers.
care.
It's the Steelers. And who has the defensive player of the year? The Steelers. when I talk about a defense carrying a team,
Why does
I
your
think of the
defense suck? Why does
Steelers
your defense
because the
suck?
offense is just abysmal. It doesn't matter what this offense is because the defense is always going to pull through. Is Kenny Pickett bad? Yes, he is. Is Matt Canada worse? Yes, he is. It doesn't matter though because the defense is probably like top 10 in the league. But you know what? That gets us through these games. And you know what?
The stats will not tell you that we're top 10.
You get torn up on the ground. All you do
We're
is
clutch.
you
We're clutch.
We're clutch.
Get
And
some turnovers.
Rohan,
It's not enough.
here's
It's not enough.
here's the thing. It's been enough. We made the playoffs before. We'll do it again. It doesn't matter who we're against. We'll make it close or we'll get blown out. But guess what? We're gonna make it close every single game. You know, honestly, I'm looking at these scores right now. We've either got like it's either been 30-6 or 30-7, or it's been like one score or less. Like it's insane. So
We
like,
either get blown out or we eke it out.
Or you win.
yeah. So like, and guess
what?
what? We'll do that. We'll win the games this time. And even though I don't have the quantitative analytics to back it up, Rohan, like Rohan does.
We got good
But
vibes on our
we
side.
got the heart. We got power. we'll get there. That's all I got.
You won. You needed to force 4 turnovers in one, 3 in the other, and 3 in the 2 other games.
Okay,
No,
are you,
honestly,
are you done
you know
fucking
what?
nerding
Here-
out over
so-
numbers?
Because my
Rohan,
the
let me
math
give you a
isn't adding
stat.
up here. Look
me-
at this. Your expected
it's
points.
tough.
Your expected
You know what?
points is
I'm not
negative on literally like every single category here.
Okay, guess what? We have
Your
like a
numbers,
top.
I
We
say,
have the
you're
best
making the
pass
playoffs. You're
rush.
the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We have the best pass rush duo. Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt. They're probably like actually statistically number 1 in the league. Like that's a stat for you if you're
not.
obsessed with
Yeah,
stats. But
You
like,
just made that up.
PFF should
No,
rate
no.
them as the number one if they're
yeah,
not
they are.
already.
They're literally the number 1.
You guys are top 10, yes, in like pressure percentage, sure. But that pressure is not translating because
Okay,
you were
we-
still
we have
getting
to move
cooked
on.
through
We
the
have
air.
to move on.
I'm sorry, but this is a bad team that's
All
just
right.
gotten a bit lucky.
Whatever. We're gonna win this.
You know,
game.
well,
Um,
no, you're not.
we'll see how this goes. December 3rd at 1 p.m. Okay, Rohan?
Yeah.
What happened?
Because we're playing the Cardinals.
We're gonna
baby.
lose. We suck. We suck.
Yeah,
Obviously, we're gonna lose,
damn it.
okay?
That's one more win for us.
Yeah, that's one more win for us.
We're gonna beat
Okay.
up on Kyler.
I've never said we were a good team. I'm saying you're not either.
Can't wait to see TJ Watt sack Kyler.
Okay, why? What has Kyler done to you?
I just want to win. Anyway, moving to week 7. We have 2 games we're going to talk about, 2 big games. The Detroit Lions, just a feel-good story, man. This is just a classic feel-good story. Who's rooting against the Detroit Lions? No one. They're 5-1, my personal number 2 team in the league, going to face Baltimore. If I've never rooted for the Lions harder in my life, I never will more than this game. I hate the Ravens. I love the Lions. Go Lions. They're going to win this game. Baltimore's favored by 3. Matchups-wise, Jared Goff, personally my MVP of the league right now. Playing outstanding. Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 5 receiver in the league, I would say. And he's not talked about enough. Sam Laporta, really good. Offensive line is amazing. I think the main thing is this Baltimore defense has been playing really well, but Baltimore defense has gotten some lucky breaks with who they've gotten to play. I think that comes to an end this week. This Lions offense is one of the best in the league. Lions defense limits the run, and it's going to force Lamar and this very shaky wide receiving core to make some plays. We saw against Pittsburgh, didn't really work there. Lions are going to win it. I'll say 27-24.
You know, for me, I think the most impressive thing, I guess, from this last game against the Buccaneers was this Lions team had, I'm trying to do some math right now, 40 yards on the ground. Like, when you have 40 yards on the ground, like, that's when you need to know, like, if the quarterback is going to pick up the slack, if the quarterback is going to win you the games, if the quarterback is going to come in the clutch. Like, I think Jared Goff has done more than enough to prove that he can carry this offense. And it doesn't matter, like, if the rushing, like, just didn't do anything. Because guess what? He's got playmakers. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Finally, Jameson Williams is becoming significant after all of those injuries. Josh Reynolds, Sam Laporta. He threw to, like, 13 different people, like, or not 13, but, like, you get the point. He threw to, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different receivers, okay?
Good math there, Tree. Good math.
Sorry?
Good math.
Oh, yeah, math, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he threw to 10 different receivers. Honestly, I think Goff has taken control. I think Dan Campbell has been amazing for this team. And this is the best Lions team ever, I want to say. Honestly,
Ever.
maybe in history, like dead ass.
Probably.
Like this is historic for the Lions, and I'm all here for it, and I'm so happy for them. So go Lions, fuck the Ravens.
Exactly.
Rohan, if you don't take the Lions, I might just I don't even know, drive to
Yeah, this
Washington.
podcast
and
is
just-
ending it.
Really, this is the most egregious thing we've done on the podcast. Me picking the Ravens is going to be the most egregious thing done on this
Picking
podcast.
your favorite team.
I'm picking the Ravens. I mean,
all right. I guess I'm coming to DC.
The
Okay.
Lions are a great team. Don't get me wrong, but this is more also. I'm worried about the fact that Montgomery's going to be out for this game. The Lions, a lot of
That
what they
doesn't
do
matter.
is
Jared Goff proved it.
I think Jared Goff is good, but I mean, you're talking about a Ravens team. Yes, maybe it's a product of who they faced, but they're the second best pass defense in the league behind the Browns. I mean, this is a team that's playing lights out in terms of their pass defense. Rush defense is also really good, and now you're expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to carry the workload. I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs can do that.
Craig Reynolds.
Yes.
Will carry
I'm
the
starting him in fantasy. Yes.
Yes.
You will not. Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, if you're counting on something to get done through the ground, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is your guy. Unfortunately, he's not drafted as between the tackles guy at Alabama. He out of every 4 carries, he gets tackled for a loss. I think that the lack of a run game is going to be even more apparent against a better defense like the Ravens. I think the offense will still put up enough points, but I like the Ravens more here. I think Lamar's going to take another step forward. I think he'll take advantage of a secondary that's a little beat up and do well. So I'm going to say Ravens win. We'll say 24-20.
Okay, now to our final game of the weekend, Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a fun one. Miami Dolphins, their high-flying offense, soon to get Jalen Ramsey back. Looks like he's going to be back by the Chiefs game, Week 9 before the bye. But they don't have him this game, but they're going to Philly to face against the Eagles. I've long called this Eagles team since before the season. They're frauds. They're relative frauds.
They're not frauds. They're fine.
They're frauds
They're
because they're
fine.
not Super Bowl contenders, and
They're
they will not
fine.
make the Super Bowl. They make the playoffs. And last week they showed that Jalen Hurts, he's good. It's not great. He can, play some weird football sometimes. His offense still seems a little out of sync. Defense can be diced up, and I think they're going to get diced up this weekend by Tua Tagovailoa. MVP football right now, a little too much turnover sometimes, but they were down 14-0, and it never felt like they were out of it last week. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Chase Claypool. Not really, though.
Did he do anything in that game?
No, he didn't. He's been
Okay.
inactive.
Oh, nice.
But, it's the Dolphins' offense. They're statistically one of the best offenses in NFL history through, 5-6 games. I think they continue that. Dice up the Eagles. I'm going to say Dolphins win 34-31.
Yeah, I was literally going to say the exact same score. I guess I'll just say something different. So I'll go 31-28.
Real
Dolphins.
original.
Wow. Subtract 3.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be a defensive slugfest now.
This is tough for me, guys. You know that. This is like
This is really Rohan.
Honestly, I feel like everything is tough for Rohan. Every
No,
decision,
no.
everything he goes against.
This is Rohan's
No.
quarterbacks. It's like if we could have like a 3-team matchup, throw the Ravens in here too.
Oh man,
This would be the hardest thing for Rohan.
Man.
To
Like
pick.
these are 2 of my favorite quarterbacks. These are 2 teams that it's like picking a favorite between 2 kids.
I can pick a favorite kid here. There's a favorite.
I've been I just love both these teams so much. I think their quarterbacks are great. I think they're playing great. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, the Dolphins, I think, can move the ball through the air really well. But, I mean, what's an understated part of their offense is the fact that they're also rushing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they lead the league in rushing as well by a very large margin. But the Eagles still have one of the best rush defenses in the league. That has not changed. Rushing against that front is incredibly difficult. On the flip side, the Dolphins' defense, it really doesn't do much well.
No,
I mean,
they're not. They're not
I mean,
good.
they're not a good defense, and I worry about that because you look at the Bills game where their offense got shut down, and then the defense just got torn up.
Do you think this Eagles
by
defense will shut down this Dolphins offense?
Well, I think the Eagles defense can make the Dolphins offense one-dimensional, and in that scenario, again, I love Tua, but Tua's throwing a little bit of.
To be honest,
Picks this year,
I
Steve.
I don't
turns
think
the ball over.
one-dimensionality.
Don't call
I
him
don't.
that. Don't call him that. But Tua's been throwing a little too many picks for my liking. That being said, I think these are still 2 very good teams. They're contenders. I think once the Dolphins get Jalen Ramsey back, they become even better contenders. But right now, simply because of the fact that the Eagles can at least stop the Dolphins in one way, but I don't think the Dolphins can stop the Eagles in any way, leads me to believe that the Eagles will come out with this one, especially in a home game. I'll take the Eagles. I'll say 30-24, but it'll be a really good game. Oh, that feels so wrong.
It's
I feel
okay.
so wrong.
You'll
I don't-
get
I
through
don't-
it.
I
You'll
hope
get
it's a
through it.
tie. I hope a tie would be fun.
No. Please make the Eagles lose. Anyway, that's about it all for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode and all 49 ones previously. We hope you guys have really enjoyed and been on this 2-year journey with us, and we're excited to continue it and keep going. Anything you guys would like to say?
It's been a great ride for around 45, at least for me.
48.
48.
Yeah. Tree? Okay.
Awesome.
A man of not many words.
But yeah, thank
but
you
yeah.
guys.
Still
Okay.
That's
not
about
many
it.
words.
Still, yes. Just 4 more, 3 more. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Check out our Instagram for picks, power rankings, and episodes like this. We'll see you next week in week 8. A lot of good matchups to come. My name is Arjun Ryan,
I'm Shribam Konda.
And I'm Rohan Patel.
and I'll see you next.
Whoa, that's
Whoa.
pretty selfish.
That's
That's selfish. We.
That's kind of insane.
Yeah, that's
My bad,
Did
my
you forget
bad.
about us? Are we not important to you?
Maybe this is gonna become a solo. Anyway, we'll see you next week on the turf.